Jeremy, I don't want to alert you. I don't want to alert you, but there may or may not be a plastic wrap on the back of your chair. If you could kindly remove it from its original packaging, we can get started with the show.
You're really gonna wait for me to? I'm not gonna remove it on camera.
Jeremy, we can start the show once you've removed the plastic wrap.
I don't do any home improvement projects on camera.
Removing something from its original packaging is not a home improvement project. It's just good common practice, Jeremy.
All right. I'll get to it later, I promise.
Anyways, we're the Leg Kick Podcast. I'm your Caucasian host. You may have heard of Sirius Black from Harry Potter. I'm Silly White. We've got Jeremy, Mike, and David over here. They are the coffee. I am the cream. Welcome to the Leg Kick Podcast, everybody. Gentlemen,
we have a story
collectively...
about how my parents would never let me watch Harry Potter.
What? Really?
Yo, let's save that, man.
Yeah, we'll save that for the end. For the end, we'll hear about how Mike wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter and I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons.
Damn. Some of these lines these parents have, eh? Anyway, all right.
Guys, you got anything to say for yourselves as a collective community?
All I'll say is just, on the eve of the Derek Chauvin trial, I can't believe we actually let a white man start this podcast. That's it.
Well, this podcast, like all other aspects of our world, has given way to colonialism. And, I have colonized the Leg Kick Podcast.
Quick shout out, guys. Please watch, anybody listening, watch Exterminate the Brutes on HBO. And yeah, that's it. Just watch that. And then let's talk about race. Anyway.
ACAB.
Amen.
Anyways, we've got some news to get into. We've got some fun Bellator card that for once in history outdid the UFC. We have a tragedy that...
Spaghetti. Man, Stefano, I feel like this is a weekly occurrence with you. You get super hype, you come backwards, and then all of a sudden the mic...
We've got... Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, we've got Bellator card that surprisingly outdid the UFC. We had a great UFC main event where a true number one contender at middleweight was crowned. We had a debacle with, certain event that we're all mourning, the Jake Paul, Ben Askren, which we'll talk about, we'll get into. I just want to say about, I'll get into it later. But before we get into the news, subscribe to the podcast. Like the episode, tell your friends about it, okay? If you have a friend that you think could benefit from hearing Leg Kick, specifically a filthy casual, if anyone comes up to you and says, bro, Jake Paul just proved that MMA doesn't work, recommend them this podcast.
Hold on a second. I don't think people are saying that. Are people really saying that?
Like, if you scour the internet enough for the deepest, darkest takes out there, you can find some...
Also, follow us on Instagram and debate us. Leave some YouTube comments. The comments they keep us motivated and let us know that we're actually, covering the topics people want to hear. If you have any comments if you have any topics you want to hear us talk about, send us a question at the legkick1@gmail.com or leave a comment on our YouTube video or Instagram page and let us debate you cowards.
Cowards indeed. And you can find us. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us where podcasts are found. Now, with that being said, let's get into the news and views of the week. First of all, this is a little bit of a funny bit of news that we probably won't be able to talk about until I bring it up here. Or we would have missed it unless I bring it up here. Hold on, I'm just going to open the door for my puppy.
Your puppy doesn't deserve daylight.
That's a good one. Mike's a sociopath, everybody. He doesn't like dogs. So, if you guys and you guys weren't actually aware of this, the co-main event of this UFC card was actually canceled. Now, fun story behind that. At the weigh-ins, Jeremy Stephens actually pushed his opponent Drakkar Klose when he got a little bit too Drakkar close to his face. And as a result, apparently, he suffered a concussion and a cervical strain in his spine, I believe, something to that effect.
His neck, I think.
And a bad concussion. Like when I read about it, he woke up the next morning and was just puking all day and wasn't cleared to fight. So that's a bit of a weird story. And the memes have been phenomenal, but not how you want to see someone go out and just more evidence that of why sucker punches are so effective, because when you're not expecting something and your body's not braced for it, this is kind of the result.
I gotta say, just really quickly on this one, because I love looking at the feedback of MMA fans, and I found this one kind of weird, because if you compare it to two different instances, you have the Aljo instance where he's kneed in the head and people think he's play acting, and there's that whole like honor code of just tough up. But then you also have the I'm blanking on it. The Jorge Masvidal versus Leon Edwards, which was kind of the same thing, where you have a dude sucker punching another dude and the feedback or the reaction to that. And it's just interesting seeing like the different reaction, because I feel like a lot of people, reasonable people were all like, oh, it's a shame, hope he gets back, blah, blah, blah. But some, a pretty vocal minority were like, is he pretending? Did he get scared after the push? And to those people, I mean, how do you argue against those people? Basically, obviously, you point to, like the doctor reports, but like
God, some people in the fan base of our sport are just absolute troglodytes, like mouth breathing, knuckle dragging, pond scum. Like, really? So you on your computer think that this professional fighter, who I don't know how many fights Drakkar Klose has, but I'm assuming pro amateur is probably plus 20. He does this for a living. He's missing out on a potential paycheck to feed his family, and
trained for months for this fight.
And he gets pushed. Yeah, and he gets pushed, and he's like, well, I don't want that smoke or half my paycheck, to be honest with you. Like, you guys are brilliant. Wow. We've really got the top minds in the world in the MMA comment sections on social media.
It's crazy. And hopefully, I'm also a little bit, I don't want to say like, I don't want to criticize Jeremy Stephens too much, because it's a fight at the end of the day, and you're going to come in with some energy.
It's promotion, right? It's like,
we got to cut it out. We have to find different ways of promoting fights. It can't just be, this isn't a sport of thugs. You know what I mean? Like, this is a sport, and you have to treat it like a sport. You can't be assaulting your competitor.
But this is I go on this show every week, and I say this every week. We have to make significant changes if we want to be at the table with the big boys, and this is one of them. Like, but no one listens.
Mike, I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sold on that, and there's two reasons. Number one, as an individual, assault's a legal term, right? So using the term assault, I mean, it's a bit dicey in this situation. I fundamentally believe, if you get up into my face, into my comfort zone, I have every right to push you out of it. Was it Jeremy Stephens' intent?
But it's a stare down.
Hold on.
Like,
if you make contact, I don't care. If you make contact with my face in a stare down, I'm sorry. You're in my comfort zone. If you're trying to intimidate me and pump me at the weigh-ins. Now, listen. Hold on. I genuinely think that I don't think Jeremy Stephens, unlike the Jorge Masvidal situation, I don't think his intent was to injure or hurt Drakkar Klose. It's a push. It's not a strike, for God's sakes. And if you're like, while I agree with you that, our sport, for whatever reason, is held to a higher standard of professionalism because we're viewed as thugs. I mean, talk about some of the conduct of other players in other sports. What about
but that's what's
his name? What about that guy in hockey that punched the guy in the back of the head? Was that Todd Bertuzzi? Remember that?
Was that Todd Bertuzzi on I want to say Paul Correa? No.
Square in the back of the head ended that guy's career. Or how about that guy in the Summit Series between Canada and Russia in the 70s who came up to the Russian and just smacked him with the hockey stick, ended his career? Even evidence of football players behaving poorly. You get basketball players fighting fans, for God's sake.
Hold on a second. But you know what happened after Mouse in the Palace? Significant rule changes.
Yeah.
What happened after the incident with the Philadelphia Flyers, the Bad Boy Flyers, where they went to the fans and a guy beat a guy with his shoe? significant rule changes. You know what I'm saying?
Were there though? Because that's happened since Ty Domi fought a fan. Like, yeah,
the fan came over the glass and had it coming. So
I don't want to make this like a
it's different though. It's different. This is a pushing match between two competitors.
No, like
but at the same time, I don't make it. Sorry, go on, Michael.
No, I was just saying. On one hand, I do agree with you. Like, yeah, like it wasn't. This is like normal par for the course. But the problem I'm trying to say is, these are the things that people bring up when they bring up as to why our sport. Like I have, and again, as a person who's had to be a liaison for MMA defectively, you know what I'm saying? These are the things people bring up, right? Why is Khabib jumping the fence? Why is no? I know, but this is the stupid conversations, but conversation.
Right? I agree with you, but at the same time, I hear where Stefano's coming from. But for me, number one, I think we need to make it clear or make a distinction between like isolated incidents and a general culture or trend. I think it's within the fighting culture, especially during stare downs, to get in each other's faces and push and shove a little bit. So maybe Drakkar Klose could have expected it, especially as he got that close, but that doesn't make it right, especially when there's money on the line. And that's my argument. Like the culture or just the trend.
Sometimes it's wrong.
It's just like we can't continue.
I don't agree. I think
fair.
I think intimidation is a fundamental part of our sport. I think it's necessary, and I don't think it's going anywhere, to be honest with you. And I don't think you'd want to do away with it. I think the egregious cases of assault should be dealt with, right? Yeah. Where they're deemed necessary, but a little bit of pushing and shoving, like, this is unfortunate. I feel for Drakkar Klose, but I don't think you'd want to eliminate that kind of thing from fighting. This isn't ONE FC where we can promote fights based on, fake world championships and,
and a doctor.
And imaginary honor culture that never really existed in the first place.
Andrew Lee had a great performance this week. Don't do that.
No, not Christian Lee. Christian Lee.
Did you say Andrew Lee? All right, then moving on.
No, but hold on. Look,
guys, Mike, we've got three events to cover. We've got 3 events. Okay, come on. We're 30 minutes in. Next piece of news. We have, and this is the last piece of news we have, Drew Dober versus Brad Riddell scheduled for UFC 263 June 12th.
Nice little fight.
Fire.
Yeah.
Couple big boys banging. I believe Brad Riddell was supposed to fight, what's his name? Wrestler Cat. You know what I'm talking about. Gillespie. I think this is stylistically a better fight for him, especially if you're trying to build intrigue for these two prospects. Because Dober had his last fights against Makhachev, and I think we see what happens when, these, forward pressure bangers come up against wrestlers. It's just, it's a great way to kill interest in them. But anyways, shall we get into it? I'm sure we're all sick of talking about it. We're sick of addressing it. This is one of those moments, and I'll let you lead into this. I just want to say, for me, this is one of those moments where I hate to be an MMA fan, or at least an authority on MMA, because I have had endless droves of friends of me messaging me, coming up to me, asking for my opinion on this. And frankly, I just want to be in mourning. I just want to shut myself in. And there's some nuance to this. Jake Paul fought a 40-year-old Ben Askren, who we knew couldn't strike in the first place, who just had a hip replacement. Like, let's be real. Even still, shameful performance. Shameful all around.
Let's so much for Jeremy leading us in. Jeez.
Yeah, I was about to say. Jeremy, talk about Liam. Talk about Andre versus Liam Williams first before.
No, man. No. You know what? Stefano's right. I mean, we have to talk about it. What took place Saturday shook up the sports world. Shook up the boxing community at least. I don't know about the rest of the sports world, but because why it did was, how do you guys feel about living in a world where Boo Boo Andre, which is probably one of the best fighters on the planet, and also this goes to the meritocracy of boxing, the fact that Canelo and Charlo don't have to fight him, so his name hasn't gotten bigger, but one of the best fighters on the planet has to take a back seat to Jake Paul. Like, and we have to talk about it because all the other sports networks caved. They threw their integrity out the window and decided to cover it. So why not? Let's join the party, guys. Please.
No, guys. Every week I come on this show, and every week I sound like a broken record, where I say every week this problem that exists in our sport, where it is not based on your greatness. It's not even like meritocracy anymore. I don't care about the meritocracy argument as much as it is not based on your greatness. It is not based on your display of talent. It is not based on your display of skill. It's displayed on how much you can sell a fight. And I think there's good to it. I think there is good to it to an extent. But the bad is when you get guys like Boo Boo Andrade, when you get guys like Robert Whittaker, who fought the fight of his life, and we'll get to it, when you when there are guys like Khabib before that infamous rant in Brooklyn,
and also Tony Harrison fought Brian Perella last night.
Yeah,
after 14 months of the ring from his last fight against Charlo. His second fight against Charlo when he first took the belt and then lost it again. So it's not like it was like a dry weekend. And PBC had the balls to put that at the same time as.
Guys, I feel like we've got to play a bit of defense here, right?
Come on, man.
If we've got to address this, if not to play a little bit of defense for our community, because first of all, I've been saying this for a long time. I even said this to Mike off air, like earlier in the week. I'm like, no matter how this ends, I wish it would just fall out, because no matter how this ends, we're all going to feel sick to our stomachs. And I do. Yeah. We all feel sick to our stomach. Like after this happened, I'm like, I feel gross. I feel dirty. I feel ashamed to be a combat sports.
Although in fairness, you thought Ben Askren was going to win, and like,
sure,
I
did.
I turned. I
thought
it was
awful.
going
He looked Ben Askren looked awful. Ben Askren looked like he didn't know how to move. He looked like he didn't know how to throw a punch. He looked terrible. He looked like a fish out of water, very much. And let's be honest.
Who told you? Who told you? Your boy told you. Come on.
No, hold on. In fairness,
Jake Paul can crack. Jake Paul can hit hard. Let's be honest. He has a couple of decent weapons. He can throw a good one too, and he can throw hard punches. Let's give credit where credit's due. But as far as the spectacle, I think I'm done with it. Now we've got BJ Penn saying he's going to call him out. We've got Tyron Woodley calling him out. We've got Jake Paul calling out Nate Diaz. For me, I feel like we almost have to continue this just so that we eventually get someone in there who.
Hey, Dave, can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Really quick. The thing though is, you may feel sick to your stomach, and I personally don't believe in the Jake Paul experiment either. By the way, Michael, I told you that Jake Paul is gonna win, and you said no. Like, don't sit here and change.
Was I not on this podcast talking about how I made calls and people were telling me this kid?
Except when you're right, Mike?
No, I'm just saying. Did I not say that? Did I not?
No, you did.
And I turned.
No, you did.
I turned. In fairness, I turned.
No, you did.
I saw one package to Ben
right.
Askren, and I turned. I was like, oh my God. Okay.
All right, let me respond to Stefano. All right, you're right. All right, you're right. You did say that there were some people backing him. I didn't really go off of that. I just go off the fact that after the pad work, Ben looked good, but he didn't show me anything that gave me faith in his hands. But what was I going to respond to Stefano? Stefano, the thing is that, though, if Jake would have lost to someone who didn't take it seriously, didn't show up in shape, didn't really develop any kind of style. I don't know what style you can develop in a short 2-month training camp, but then he would have been able to call himself a boxer. So obviously we know that Jake is working hard, and we know that he's taking it seriously, and he's doing it for the sport of boxing. So it's not like you have to be a Floyd Mayweather to take on a Conor McGregor. Like because he's hated and he has a whole production company behind him, he's gonna succeed. Like I think like if these MMA guys are gonna go in there, they have to take it seriously. Like Jake proved that. And
how about they just fight MMA?
To be honest, MMA? Wait, Mike, one second.
Sorry.
To be honest, I don't really hate it. Now I have my reservations about it, and I still don't believe in the Jake Paul experiment because you have no real legacy, and I don't recommend that UFC fighters who actually are in the UFC and all that waste their time with Jake Paul. I don't suggest that. But what I am saying is that you're not gonna walk in there and take it like lackadaisical, because Jake Paul obviously isn't.
Okay,
Which says something about like the it says something about like
the mentality for sure.
Yeah.
mentality.
No, look,
But let me say
sorry,
this. Hold
edge
on.
case though. Let's be
Let me
honest.
really quickly say this because I actually kind of agree with where Jeremy's going, but I just wanted to make sure I wrote this down in case I didn't forget. Man, for me, it's simple. And as much as I love MMA and I love combat sports, but we live in a capitalist society. So in this capitalist society, you never get what you deserve, only what you have the leverage to negotiate. Jalen Rose said it best. You never get what you deserve, only what you have the leverage to negotiate.
I like
Let's
that.
let's not pretend like when it comes to sporting merits, obviously there's more deserving people for this pedestal or for this platform, but let's not kid ourselves. Jake Paul is more popular than most MMA fighters, most fighters, period. So
23,
I would say all.
23 million followers on Instagram and like 100.4 or 6
like
pay-per-view buys or something like that. Like that
well,
rivals.
we can talk about the pay-per-view numbers a little bit later because I think those are inflated. But
Yeah,
let,
but
let's
no.
let's not lie though. Like he's bigger than all MMA fighters, most boxers. So if he can put on an event where he can convince people to pay money to see him do whatever, whether it's boxing, MMA, kickboxing, whether it's him crapping in a bucket and people pay for that, then so be it. Because that's the laws of the free market. But my thing is, and another thing, let's make it very clear: this event was not for boxing fans. It was
No.
not for MMA
They
fans.
found a niche market.
Yeah, it was for casuals. We can't complain and we can't admonish casuals on one hand and then complain when there's an event built for casuals.
Right.
Like the people watching boxing and MMA shouldn't have been watching this, but yet we were all watching it because we were intrigued.
Well, we didn't pay for it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
pay.
Not a red cent of my money went towards that event.
for sure. And I agree
I'll
with
be honest. The
Steph.
only reason why I watched this because again, when I made those calls, I went to Ben Askren. I was like, Ben Askren's going to win because he looked good on the pads. And then my heart was like, Jake might win this thing. and I was, yeah.
Come on, man.
And another thing though,
That pad work wasn't enough, man.
well, first
Who
of
do you
all,
guys think is next for Jake Paul?
Sorry.
I
Before
just
we
want to say
talk
one more
about that, let's
thing
get
because
to
I
Jake.
agreed with Stefano that Ben looked awful, like really bad. Like Snoop Dogg was making fun of him like from the first 10 seconds. But regardless, at the same time, we're talking about like a 40-something-year-old versus a 24-year-old in his prime. So if the
Oh, a
24-year-old
40-something-year-old who just had his hip replaced, right?
exactly, like
Like
let's put
the
it this.
man can't even walk. He waddles.
And we all said Ben Askren was not the best boxer in MMA, and
worst, probably
this
the
was
worst.
foreseeable.
Yeah.
But my biggest issue was the entire production.
He was outboxed by Damian Maia. Sorry, go on.
No, but yeah, that's true. But
Yeah, the production was terrible. Please
was
delve
one
into it,
of
David.
the most painful things I've ever had to sit through. Not had to, nobody forced me, but if I paid money for that, like I would be so furious. There were too many artists. There was a point where there
I
was
didn't even watch any of it.
90 minutes of concerts. 90 minutes of concerts and videos and little like teasers. The fights were terrible.
Oh,
the fights were terrible, man.
Regis Progress
That was a
versus
terrible fight. That was a terrible fight.
The ending was so like that just gave me a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah, no.
And can we talk about? Can we
Yeah,
talk
that
about?
was-
Can
I
we
mean,
talk
at least
about-
it was a pro. At least it was a pro fight. It was a
guys,
pro.
can we talk about Oscar Dilla?
Like, come on, man.
Oh,
At what point? Like,
disgraceful.
disgraceful, man. Disgraceful. Like all over, and that was during the Progress fight, right? If I'm not mistaken.
No, that was
And
Mir.
Frank
I think that was Mir Cunningham.
Yeah, it was Mir
And that
Cunningham.
was the Frank Mir Cunningham fight.
But you know what? I gotta give
Why-
Mir his credit, and Jeremy also was giving Mario Lopez some credit for this too. They had every right to shit on Oscar De La Hoya for that embarrassment that he put on that air
Yeah.
Saturday night.
As they should have.
And they could have done it, and it would have been fine, and I would have been A-okay with it. But they didn't take the easy way, and they actually said, "Hey, he has a problem. Let's treat it with some class."
The platform for him to spew.
No,
preach, David, preach.
No,
this
but
guy
not
has a
that. But
platform.
they didn't say that. That's not what they said.
Been up there. He
But they
shouldn't have been up there.
spotlighted.
No, that's not what they said. But they said he can be an ambassador for the sport when he gets himself cleaned up. But we don't. He's not going. But we have to. What was the line Frank Mir said? I know how hard addiction can be, and I want to see him get better.
Yo, I gotta say something to David's point. But David, I get everything you're saying, and you hit the nail right on the head. Like, I have much more respect for actual MMA and boxing events now that I watch that circus. However, it is a proven business model, number one, and number two, fuck, what was number two? Look,
Can we agree to
but
ban
it is
Snoop Dogg from getting in front of a
it is
microphone
proven
for the rest of his life?
So, and now they're talking about being able to carve out enough of a market in order to have enough money to pay Crawford and Spence on one of these Triller fights. Even Teofimo Lopez is gonna fight George Camboso on Triller. So they're ironing out some kinks right now. But like, Triller has a proven business model here. Who's to say that like some boxers don't start wanting to get
there's elements that I don't mind. Like there's look, I don't think having a concert, like a musical performance during a boxing event is so bad.
I don't know
having
if you need 10,
90 minutes of
yeah. I don't know.
Guys, we're missing the point though. There's a big opportunity to be had here. And that opportunity is to circulate a petition so that Snoop Dogg can never be put in front of a microphone in any capacity ever again.
Snoop Dogg owns a lot of Triller,
Snoop Dogg sucks.
Man, I love Snoop Dogg's music. I love Snoop Dogg's music, but man, he needs to just step away from the mic, man, because it's too much.
Snoop Dogg is the kind of sellout hack who hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. He's the kind of sellout hack that had a good rap career in the 90s, and now there's nothing that he won't put his name on. I've seen him on SodaStream commercials.
Yeah.
I've seen him on like plant-based meat commercials. Everything from
and now SodaStream has got some social credibility. So.
I was gonna buy a SodaStream before, but now that Snoop Dogg advertised it to me, I really could go for a soda, Jeremy.
It was too much, man. And also Snoop. I don't know who needs to say this, but Snoop, man, you're not funny. Just like cut it out.
It's not funny. He's not
because
funny.
He had. You want to know what the problem is? He had one line with Nate Robinson, and all of a sudden, people want to see him more.
Like,
so
once again, and this is why I'm not blaming one individual. It's the entire organization. Even for the Oscar De La Hoya thing, like, why would you give this guy a platform knowing he's taking drugs, he has a history of drug addiction, you're how many minutes into the production, and this dude is just saying whatever he wants, like clearly inebriated, and instead of the co-commentators to like assist him or be professional,
they tried. When you're in there,
you had the other guys like, oh man, have you smoked weed before?
Laughing at
contact time, man, get that guy out of here, man. Get all of them out of here, man. Let's get professionals.
You know what?
It's Kellerman.
I just feel. Look, I feel like what happens is, and I've been in this position before, when someone is, the best way to put it, uncooperative when you're doing a production, you have to run with it because you're in the middle of the production, and so the problem comes is, how much rope do I give? Will I, there are questions you have in your head about what to do when someone is not working with you in the middle of a production, right? And you're stymied, you're stuck. Like,
but my problem is,
David, can we? Oscar De La Hoya, though, let's be honest, he's a real pioneer for drag within MMA, within martial arts.
Well, I don't even know where to go with that. But my thing is, like, how can you even create the conditions to allow that to happen?
No,
you know
that's
what I
true.
mean? Like,
they should have vetted him. They should have looked at him. Look,
you have Pete Davidson basically shitting on the entire card for the entire night. Like, he was making up until the last fight, he was making fun of everybody. Yeah. I mean, I just felt like it looked very amateurish, and we've all been to amateur events. Even they wouldn't do something like
Bear
that.
produced. Even
Like,
they were.
come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, it was just too far. As I said, the fights were. We had an undercard fight where there wasn't even a winner announced. Like, are
Yo,
you
it
kidding?
was a show. It was simply a show.
It wasn't.
How are
It
you gonna
was.
get
Look,
these men to box each other's brains out and not announce a winner, saying, "Oh, the winner is drop the guns or against violence or whatever Steve Dogg said." Like, come on, man. And then once again, we can know. I had a really deep the Joe Fournier fight. Embarrassing. I don't know who that Raycon dude is. I know he's like a DJ, a reggaeton dude, but man, that wasn't even a fight. Like, you had a dude with eight or nine fights looking awful, basically just boxing up some dude who'd never fought in his life, and the other dude never threw a punch. Then you go into what you call 90 minutes, obviously, of 90 minutes of concerts. You had Saweetie, you had Doja Cat, who performed twice.
I was gonna say she performed twice, didn't she? I didn't even watch
Yeah.
it. See, as soon as the concerts happened, I went and watched the UFC event. So
Yeah, me too. You had
Hey
Ice
guys,
Cube.
what's more disgraceful, Oscar De La Hoya's commentary or that failed MMA promotion he tried to put on?
The commentary, man.
The
The commentary was a
commentary, yeah.
low. It was a real low. And just quickly, this rounding up, the Steve Cunningham one, that was actually like a fairly entertaining fight. Like, that, I think, is what
but
they were aiming for.
it got ruined. It got ruined by Oscar De La Hoya.
Around.
So, and then you have Ben Askren, who, you know, true story. I go into work today, and literally they go, Michael, and they look at me and they go, so about Ben, and I went, oh God,
Man,
like,
come on, man.
we're gonna have to deal with this. This is something that the MMA community has to deal with, right?
I mean, I feel okay with it because, once again, I don't owe, he doesn't represent me. He's just a guy who decided to do a thing. He got paid very well, and no tears from me.
That's not how the rest of the world sees it.
That's not how they see it, right?
Of course, that's not how they see it. But
And we want our sport to grow and flourish.
That's
We
the
cannot
problem.
have this. I
That's the
really
problem.
think I'm dubious about if Ben Askren went out there and starts Jake Paul, if it would bring any new fans to the sport anyway.
yeah, really.
So at this point,
thing.
I think, who do you guys think is next for Jake Paul? And then we can wrap this up and actually talk about some good fighters.
Only one name is on my lips.
Tyron Woodley?
Jeremy Asiffo.
Let's go. Let's get it.
That is the first thing that
You know what
pops into my
Jimmy
mind.
said, and to his credit, you know what Jimmy
like-
said to me? He went, I'm never joining that circus.
No,
listen.
I take
No. Look.
I
Look,
accept
look,
the
look.
fight with Jake Paul.
Stefano, you're interrupting the good man.
I've been training for this matchup for years. I've been studying what he does. I'm gonna get to work, start training with the Charlo brothers. I don't think Jake Paul can hang with me. I'm a big boy, a big banger, and I bring that Ghanaian heat. So, Jake Paul, be ready for this jollof because you're gonna eat a full meal.
That's actually a good line. I can't lie. That ending line was pretty solid.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
That impression is rough on the throat, let me tell you.
All right, Jeremy, please speak.
The real voice is rough on the throat. Stuart Little's older brother, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, look.
That was good.
Guys, look.
That was good.
Look, I know how to be a professional hater, but not past the point of delusion. I wouldn't beat Jake Paul. But look,
Finally!
shut up. Look. But let me tell you,
I would.
Listen, I wouldn't.
Maybe
Look,
you
I wouldn't beat Jake. Listen, I wouldn't beat Jake Paul, but Jake Paul doesn't even fight guys on his competition. Like, if you're the purpose of a fight, like if you tell me you're a novice fighter, I'm gonna put you against a novice fighter in one of these local shows or something. Like, I'm not gonna put you against, I don't know. There's a lot on my mind, but like one thing I can say, and and I told you I still don't believe in the Jake Paul experiment. I think it takes away a level of respect away from this sweet science, from this beautiful sport. But I can say that I've developed somewhat of a respect for Jake Paul because I could see that he wants boxing. Like, yeah, you guys said Ben Askren looked terrible, which is true, but Ben Askren did kind of put Jake in a position where Jake had to think a little bit, and you saw that Ben Askren got in Jake's head leading up to the fight, and you could see the nerves. The nerves were visible on Jake's face, and he was able to think through those nerves and lean on his training. The skill is still a question for me, I will admit, but I will say I've developed a level of Jake. Like, Jake has turned his backyard into a boxing gym. Like, dude is a millionaire.
He doesn't cut corners. He does not cut corners with his training.
He's taking it seriously. He's put in resources towards his training. I have developed a level of respect for Jake Paul, and he is choosing. You look on his Instagram, it's all boxing. It's all boxing. Like, he's shadow boxing with a robot. Like, it's so, yeah, in that sense, I have developed some respect. I will say in this present moment in time, I don't see myself beating Jake Paul yet. But
I will say that I will slap that broccoli head Jake Paul and his older brother Matthew McConaughey Jr. in the same night. Okay.
Look, I
think real quick.
Guys, let me just talk about some real boxing events really quick.
No one wants to talk about real boxing.
I just want to say one thing though. I think it's both possible to say this thing. Jake Paul and Logan Paul do not cut corners with their training, and they're trying. But this thing was a disgrace.
Yeah, who's next?
You can say both.
Who's next? Is
Conor
it Nate
McGregor,
Diaz?
Sadly,
Nate
Conor
Diaz.
McGregor is already eyeing that fight with Jake Paul, and it's gonna happen, man. Either Jake or Logan Paul.
Well, why not in MMA? This is my problem. Why not in MMA?
Because they don't want to lose,
Mike. Because they'll lose, and who wants to see that? What we want is the unknown. We don't want to know. We don't want to see something where we know what the result's gonna be. We want.
I think it's gonna be Nate Diaz or Tyron Woodley.
Nate Diaz isn't gonna do that, man. Nate
Diaz,
he will. No, man. I don't think, because what's it called? Jake Paul's gonna try and do his mind games, and it's gonna end in violence with Nate Diaz. Outside.
So let's move on, because I have a bad taste in my mouth. We're nearly an hour in, and there was a stunning UFC main event on the weekend.
Can I really quick? Really quick.
Okay.
All right, fine. It's fine.
Are you sure? Is it a big fight, or is it,
No, there's nothing really too big. Just wanted to get your thoughts. No, it's okay.
Okay, go ahead, Jeremy.
I already mentioned the two fights that took place in my introduction to Jake Paul, so it's fine.
No, talk about it. I
go for it, Jeremy.
Please.
Look, there's a big card happening. Emmanuel Navarrete, who I have beating Christopher Diaz.
I like that dude.
Yeah. What?
I like that dude. He can box.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the same card, Edgar Berlanga is facing on Demond Nicholson.
Berlanga can box too. He's got huge power.
Berlanga's going to see if he can continue his streak of 15 straight first knockout wins. And if he does, it'll be 16 now by Saturday. And it's happening on ESPN Plus on April 24th. And then there was some war of words between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, but maybe we can get into that later.
My God. You see, even the boxing and MMA guys are doing it. So how can we be mad at Jake Paul for doing it?
But this is my problem, is that why can't Tyson Fury, why is it that we always have to go to them? Why can't Tyson Fury come to MMA?
Because they'll lose. Because they don't know jiu-jitsu or wrestling.
Exactly my point.
Right.
How do we grow jiu-jitsu? How do we grow jiu-jitsu? How do we grow kickboxing? How do we grow the other elements of MMA if we are not willing to grow the sport ourselves? So all these other guys who are trying to come over to boxing, I hope they get embarrassed. I hope they lose. I hope Francis Ngannou gets knocked out within 2 minutes if he ever steps foot in the boxing ring. I hope Tyron Woodley loses to Jake Paul, and I hope.
No. Let's not go that far. I hope Tyron Woodley starts as Jake Paul.
Okay,
Mike's opinions do not reflect the opinions of the Leg Kick podcast at large. The Leg Kick is of the opinion that we hope Tyron Woodley starts as Jake Paul.
Okay, fine. You know what? That's true, because Tyron Woodley has gone through it, and I actually kind of rooted for him, and I want him to do well in life. But
I think that one's a toss-up.
right? But here's my problem. Here's my problem.
So
willing.
Too much time.
You know what? Fine. I'm not going to say anything. Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Mike, I honestly, like, not that I don't want to keep talking about this, but if we do, I might be sick to my stomach on air. I'm
upset. Like, I'm very upset.
Like, let's move on, because I think we're taking away from Robert.
Yeah.
Whittaker, who, let's be honest, Robert Whittaker, he looked phenomenal. Yeah, he looked so good. What amazed me about this fight is that Whittaker looked like he was ready for every aspect of Gastelum's game. Now, Gastelum, we can call it a last minute replacement, but these guys have been, locking eyes from across the cage from quite a while, booked in 2019 to fight, and found each other as a result of pandemic matchmaking, locking horns. And Whittaker looked great, man. From his takedowns from the body lock, his top control in top half guard, his counter punching looked great. His counter jab looked phenomenal. He wasn't there. He wasn't pulling back from the 1-2 and then waiting for Gastelum to come back at him with the cross. He was intercepting him with that jab left hook. He was circling to his left, or sometimes he would throw that inside low kick and circle out to the dominant side, this being a southpaw versus orthodox matchup. He was taking advantage of the head movement of Gastelum. That 1-2 high kick, it paid dividends across the stretch, and it didn't knock out Gastelum or even knock him down, but it kept him from utilizing his head movement to the fullest extent that he could. And that, in turn, set up the low kicks. And, my God, Whittaker was a monster. He was an absolute monster in this fight.
He was clairvoyant.
I was just going to say quickly, man, I loved his 1-2 head kick, 1-2 low kick. That thing was a thing of beauty, man. The way he snaps that thing back, down back, it must be so hard to defend against, because you can tell like he's putting a lot of weight into it, but it's quick too. And Gastelum's a good fighter. He's a really good fighter. He's in the top 10 of the division for a reason. But for me, this fight just showed why Whittaker deserves the next title shot. It showed why he is, in that elite group of the middleweight division. And honestly, like, I just can't see anyone apart from Adesanya right now beating him. And honestly, if they did a rematch with Adesanya, not Paulo Costa.
No,
I don't think Paulo Costa beats him. I think Paulo Costa, while a monstrous hitter, good at crowding people against the fence, I don't think he's able to cut off Whittaker, because Costa has showed big flaws in cutting people off when they circle to his right. And he's good at cutting them off with the left hook and the left body kick, but Whittaker's going to down circles around him, I think.
The one thing I wanted to say, what the interesting for me?
Real quick, that intercepting cross. Oh, how about the intercepting cross, boys? Let's be honest.
Dude, you know what impressed me too? The chaining of his
out
punches
to the left side.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Punches were gorgeous.
For me, his physical attributes are really good. Like, he's got great speed. You can tell, like, he's got great wrestling, and especially his defensive wrestling. He got taken down, but each time, like, man, he was up, like, in an instant. And I feel like his strongest attribute, though, is definitely his fight IQ, because what I noticed, like, he wasn't making a lot of the same mistakes as he was in, like, his Adesanya loss, for example.
Yeah.
He was he didn't, like, lunge. Don't get me wrong, he still had that, like, lunging style where he's, like, blitzing, but he didn't, like, lunge in to his strikes as much. He respected Gastelum's power. He didn't get into too many sloppy brawls, which is kind of, he's kind of tends to do. So
I will say, I was going to say, I will say, though, let's not put the cart before the horse with the Adesanya fight, because while I do think Whittaker stylistically is a hard counter to Adesanya is also 6'4" and has an 80-inch reach.
Facts.
Next time, Whittaker's going for the takedowns, man. I really think, like, if he can mix it up a little bit more, if he can kind of take a Marvin Vettori kind of approach, and use his much superior striking to Marvin Vettori, obviously, then he can make it kind of interesting.
Forget Marvin Vettori. The way Whittaker mixed up his skills in this fight was unbelievable. Yeah. It was, Marvin Vettori has a much more direct and physical approach, whereas Whittaker's, it's just
subtle.
Just subtle, it's creative, it's beautiful. Gastelum, he has a few tools that he uses very, very well. He punches with his 1-2 is a thing of beauty. Where he had success in this fight was when he switched that left cross, to an arcing hook as Whittaker was circling out, and he caught him a couple of times. But for the most part, Whittaker pitched a shutout.
Yeah. No, able to I liked watching
on 2 occasions.
I liked watching the masterclass that Whittaker put on the stand-up defense. His leg kick checks, the low leg kick checks, were like he saw them before they came. I really liked watching that, and I also liked the utilization of the jab as he would step out of range and then utilize the jab to keep Gastelum at bay. I really enjoyed everything that. I'm just gonna continue blowing him as you guys were. He was just awesome.
What a guy, man! I just feel like it cannot.
I know. I just thought it was awesome in terms of Adesanya. I'm kind of with Micah. I just think Adesanya is
stylistically
so precise, but I'm also kind of with David in the sense that with the skill that we've seen him put on display. It's
he's
like
such a hard
mind watching a second go at it because I feel that Robert Whittaker deserves it. And I just feel like in the shot that he got caught with against Adesanya, although it was a precise shot by Adesanya, it was like the skill that we've seen. It feels like Robert Whittaker could handle.
I just don't think. In the rematch, Robert Whittaker would make it as much of a kickboxing match as that first fight was.
Well, guys, remember. I think Whittaker.
There's a little bit of a blueprint to beating Adesanya now out there. So
I think Whittaker could do it better than Blachowicz did. I think he's faster. I think he's more precise, and I think he can maximize certain ranges that Blachowicz frankly can't. Right? I maintain that first fight was a terrible performance for Robert Whittaker. He didn't maximize his advantages. He got antsy and he blitzed far too often. And as a result, Adesanya was able to time when he was entering that range and time counterpunches. Adesanya didn't even have to get on his A game. He just waited on Whittaker to come to him and time the blitz. And the blitz works well, but it works well in conjunction with other stuff. Other fighters that use that karate blitz well, like Thompson, like Machida, right? A lot of their game is circling the cage, picking at you from the outside, keep Adesanya uncomfortable and set up the blitzes and the takedowns when you deem it safe to do so, right?
Question, Stefano. Just really, I think you're probably saying the same thing, but do you feel like Whittaker has the advantage over Adesanya if he makes it like a outside game as opposed to a more like grimy brawl kind of fight?
I think he needs to do a bit of both. I think he needs to play the outside in order to get Adesanya coming to him, and then time the he needs to. Sorry, I'm getting a call. I think where he will have the least amount of success against Adesanya is in boxing range in the pocket, right? I think that's clear. Not that he shouldn't utilize that range to his advantage, but Whittaker needs to make this an everything fight. If he's too direct in pursuing the takedown, I think what Adesanya times him, moves away, is elusive, and eats him up on the outside, right? Yes, but if he sets up those double underhook takedowns as flawlessly as he did in this fight, and perhaps waits till Adesanya's back is against the fence to blitz, he could have a little more success. It took Blachowicz 3 rounds to get Adesanya down.
Yeah, I will say, I do think stylistically, Robert Whittaker does a lot of things that should present Adesanya issues. It's just the physical advantages Adesanya has, like vision, speed, length. He's also, keep in mind, Adesanya lost how many times in kickboxing? 3 times? And 2 were to one of the best in the world in Pereira.
That's why I'm just so skeptical about making it. Robert Whittaker is great at stand-up, and I think against most people in the UFC, he does a pretty decent job. But against Adesanya, man, I hear what Stefano's saying. You do have to mix it up because you can't be one note and just shoot like Derek Brunson. No disrespect Derek Brunson, but just shoot the double and
No, you got to bring all arrows to the quiver.
Exactly.
You got to bring
You
all
have to make him
arrows to the
think
quiver.
too, kind of like Yan did. Make him think, respect you on the outside, respect your power, and then you can start to see opportunities to blitz and take him down, open up.
Where I do think too also is, as much as John gave him a blueprint of where to get Adesanya, Gastelum also kind of gave a bit of a blueprint
Sure.
too, right?
But people have tried to do and I think that's what Whittaker tried to do in that first match. He tried to blitz, he tried to close the gap, kind of like Gastelum did. But by then, Adesanya had already, like, I wouldn't say shifted his game, but he already noticed, like, that's how people were going to fight him in terms of, like, waiting for him to blitz. The Romero fight was similar because Romero was waiting for the counter opportunity, and Adesanya just stood on the outside and picked him apart for the most part. So
with 3 strikes around. Yeah. I mean, definitely I think that, like I said about punching range, the ranges that Whittaker needs to spend the least amount of time in is that I'd say number 3 and number 2 ranges, right? Don't spend enough time in those ranges where Adesanya is programming you with feints and setting you up for things, right? Yeah. Be elusive when you need to be elusive and hang around in that range only when you intend to strike. But
one quick question though, and I do think he might be better because Robert Whittaker's fought Darren Till, whose game is pretty much built on feints as well. Not in the same way Adesanya is, but like that fight was a feint like party pretty much. So maybe he's improved since then and can read the feints a little bit better.
But Adesanya's feint game,
having a feint party.
Yeah, but Adesanya's feint game is different. Like everyone has a different feint style, and sometimes it gives some guys problems.
You're right.
Some guys it doesn't. Some guys you think might not be as good as a feinter give this one guy problem. It's not as simple as, well, this guy's a really good feinter, so if this guy's a better feinter, then therefore this is gonna, right. Like it's not like that.
No, I was just saying maybe he's learned from his fights since that Adesanya fight. And I do expect to see a different Robert Whittaker when he fights Adesanya.
Yeah,
a smarter one, one with a more clear game plan, especially now that we've seen Adesanya lose. I don't know who I would pick, honestly, for the fight. I'd have to see like some of the build-up. But one thing I also wanted to say, what a guy, man. I feel like we don't talk about this enough. Both guys, Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum, might be 2 of the best guys in the UFC, like just as human beings, as well as great fighters.
Well, Dustin Poirier's up there too.
Dustin Poirier as well, man. But like sometimes we can get blinded by, the new, shiny, exciting fighter who wants to destroy everyone. But like Robert Whittaker is younger than Adesanya, has been doing this for longer, and is still improving. Like, and he's like humble. He's not like I'm the best fighter in the world. He's still like a pretty like grounded guy.
Family man, right?
Man, like how many you say that?
Yeah, one of the reporters or question askers for the post-fight interview was like, did you see Adesanya sunning you? And then he was like, hey, man, he gets to do it. I thought that was a great answer. Like, he said he gets to do it because, he won the last fight against them. So, like, he lives in that, there's always ways to get better in that growth kind of mindset. But I'll give you, if you bested me the last time, I'll give you.
Yeah, man, I feel like MMA doesn't give guys like that enough props. DC,
not boxing either.
The pros,
which is why Jake Paul is so big, is because guys who are humble, keep to themselves, like Jaron Ennis, like those guys don't get the attention. Errol Spence, like those guys don't get the attention.
Errol Spence is
not the attention, but they don't get the money for talking up the fight and stuff like that. Like they won't be paid in. It's like you said, Dave. It's what you have the leverage to.
But my thing is that it shouldn't be like we can get to a point where it doesn't have to be like that, because Steph Curry presents himself as a family man, and Steph Curry gets paid island money. Why? Because on that court, he shoots threes from anywhere and he dribbles like a motherfucker. And so we don't have to live in this world and continue living in this world where you have to talk up the fight. You know what I'm saying?
I don't mind talking up the fights, but once again, like, it's about the fights is the most important part. Like, the talk cannot be more important than the fight. And also, let's value people who don't talk trash as much as those who do. Like, that's the part that's like really irking me. Now that I look back on the Adesanya fight, I was a little bit too much of a homer because Adesanya was being super disrespectful for no reason, really.
Well, I think it's because he knew Robert Whittaker wasn't going to hype the fight, and he needed to. I mean, you have to keep in mind this thing was going to go in Marvel Stadium, right?
It was Marvel Stadium.
It needs to fill the seats, right? So, in fairness to Adesanya, he needs to put some asses in the seats.
I get it, but also like Whittaker, what a fighter, man! Like I just feel like he might be one of those like Hall of Fame fighters when
he retires. He's a first ballot.
Like, man, like who has he not fought? Like, he's fought straight killers the entire time. Never made an excuse.
Never complained.
Never complained. Never disrespected his opponent before the fight. Never looking past his opponents. Each time he's like, oh, I'm gonna respect their skills and blah blah blah. When he beats them, he's never like, oh, that guy sucked or anything like that.
Fought Yoel twice. Didn't complain
when
one
everyone
time.
was ducking him. When everyone was ducking Yoel.
Not one time he complained.
Like,
fought
come on,
twice.
Man. I feel like, he doesn't get enough credit. And, shouts out to Robert Whittaker. I can't wait to see him challenge again because that was one hell of a fight. Anyway, let's move on because Stefano's not here. Did you guys watch the co-main?
Not the co-main, but I saw the Malkoun Al Hassan fight. Okay. At least a little bit of it.
Quickly talk about the co-main. Mess. Okay. So
well, at least Andre Arlovski did the same thing to Brock Boser, if you really think about it, because I saw in and outs parts of it, and he just has a way of keeping guys at bay nowadays, right? Working with Jackson Winklejohn, they have that patient style that, like, admittedly, even for me, who loves kickboxing to death and like will bring up like anecdotes from like Golden Age. Yeah, it's like watching paint dry. I'm not gonna lie.
That was not a good fight, man. But you know, Arlovski did what he had to do. I just wish, Sherman needed more urgency. I get it because it's Arlovski and he can knock you out as much as you can knock him out. But I don't know. I feel like with more urgency,
all of Arlovski's fights after he started working with Jackson Wink, and ATT have been like that. He just kind of waits. You're gonna throw one. He's gonna meet you and intercept you. And
didn't
so
Arlovski
you play this
fight like Tom Aspinall not too long ago?
Yeah, and lost.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, man, you look at the Tom Aspinall fight versus this fight, it doesn't bode well. But hopefully Chase Sherman can improve. And shouts out to Arlovski for the victory, man, because he deserved it. Wait, let's see if Stefano has any thoughts. Stefano, did you watch the Arlovski fight? Hello? Stefano.
Yo, can you hear me?
Did you watch the Arlovski fight?
Hey, what are we talking about?
Arlovski. Did you watch the Arlovski fight?
I did indeed.
What are your thoughts? I thought it sucked.
I wouldn't say it sucked. Sucked is a strong word.
It sucked.
I would say that Arlovski is finding a way to fight very safely at an older age.
Yes.
Someone who we thought was very
I just said that.
chinny and I wasn't here, was I, Mike?
Good point.
That's the disadvantage of having a small bladder. Anyways, Arlovski is keeping himself fairly safe. He's managed to reinvent his game in a way in which someone who we thought was chinny and for sure done for, is continued to fight on and have a winning record well into his 40s. And I mean, it's pretty crazy. I said at the retirement of Overeem, it was a sad moment because it was the last Pride veteran that was retiring from combat sports. And Arlovski never fought in Pride, but he was around in that era. He was one of the few UFC heavyweights to still do it. And the longevity of this man is impressive that he's still turning away contenders.
Yeah. Like, I feel like the Boser fight is a very good indication of, like, this fight, too, where it shows you what happens with Arlovski's style when it works. It just stymies guys,
Yeah. He's able to move better than a lot of heavyweights and kind of slow the pace of the fight down to where, he is only having to rely on
limited weapons,
and he can slow the fight down to where the exchanges are such that he's not relying on his reflexes as much anymore. And man, have you ever seen any fighter, especially a heavyweight, become more mobile in their late stages of their career? Like, it's not common. Credit where credit's due. Was it a knockdown, drag out brawl? No, but I could appreciate it. How about that?
From Arlovsky's perspective, I could appreciate it. I was expecting Sherman. I mean, we said this. I was expecting Sherman to have a little bit more urgency, but I guess fair enough for Arlovsky. He did his thing.
Difficult.
Do we want to talk about the Malkoun fight?
Yes, we do, because Abdul Razak Al Hassan, good sir, I had faith in you. You lost me quite a bit of money.
Did I not tell you that he was going to lose, though?
Did you?
Oh, wait, no. I didn't tell you. I told somebody else.
That was like 4-1 opponent. This looks like a setup.
Kind of like a notice to the UFC that just Ghanaians can't wrestle?
Or can't fight in general. I think.
Like muddy.
I mean, Ghanaians can't wrestle, they can't fight.
Threw a punch. Like, at a certain point, he was just like shooting naked for takedowns. And
David, I mean, I could have told you that. I mean, I train with Mike on a regular basis. I can tell you the Ghanaians can't wrestle for shit, man. Like, I will.
No wrestling.
I will tell you that, man, Malkoun had some fun tricks in this fight. He used 2 of my favorite takedowns. He used that head outside single, and he did it Daniel Cormier style, where and it worked on like, you think Al Hassan would make some adjustments. It worked every time. Head outside single, and then when he went to run the pipe, he stuck his leg behind.
Just like tripped him.
Yeah, tripped him over that leg, Osotogari style. And goddamn, man, I love me that takedown. And from body locks, he was looking for that DC1, as James Krause calls it, where you kind of like hook around the calf. It's like a reap. You hook around the calf and drag them to the floor, and it just worked.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Dude, Razak Al Hassan, they list him as a judo guy. His grappling looked ass. I mean, Malkoun
it's weird because he's a respected judoka.
National champion. Malkoun was styling on him. There was a moment in the fight where he would, I think it was from side control or top control, more or less, and Malkoun kept conceding that position, going for the guillotine, and then use the guillotine to threaten and then flip him over back into top position. And he did it 4 freaking times in a row to Razak Al Hassan. 4 times in a row.
But
if you're going to get styled on, at least don't,
here's what I remember saying to you. Al Hassan, is it time to I kept saying, I don't think Al Hassan has been the same ever since that rape case.
Dude, you said really that, and you're incorrect, because he had a great fight afterwards.
A great striking fight.
With Munir Laziz.
Yeah, a great striking fight, right? But when he's had to... And here's the thing. Like,
wait, do rape accusations hurt your grappling? Like, I don't understand. Where's the logic here?
Where is his heart?
You can strike.
Hold on. What I'm trying to say is, where is his heart when he has
What did David say?
I'm just saying, maybe you feel you just can't get close to people in the same way again, you know?
Look, I get it. It sounds a little out there, but I'm saying when someone has to deal with something like that, do they have the heart to train? Do they have the heart to keep learning new skills, right? Because you're seeing kind of like these mistakes with Al Hassan that like you shouldn't see in a judoka. I think
you're trying to force a square peg into a circular hole, man. Like
maybe
like you're gonna go with the fact that he hasn't been the same. Then I brought up a good performance, and you're like, well, he's not evolving. I don't know.
Hold on. And he lost that. And he lost that fight. So is it really a good performance, or was it just like, hey, they went back and forth?
I think he was out-grappled, and I think Malkoun's clearly an excellent grappler. He won the ADCC trials of Oceania, which is, a big accomplishment. It's a big accomplishment when you consider the kind of grapplers that have come out of Oceania, like Craig Jones, Lachlan Giles, Kit Dale. These are people who have won ADCC. These are some of the best grapplers in the world. So clearly he can wrestle his ass off, and man,
that's what he did. That's what he did, man.
He looked good. He had some.
Do you think Al Hassan's going to get cut after this? That's
yes.
3 straight.
In short, yes.
Yeah.
If it was a more competitive fight, then maybe not, but not after a loss like that.
Especially now that the UFC is cutting guys left, right, and center. So.
And next down the main card, we don't have to talk about this in too much detail, but
I have no words for this fight. This was not a good one.
Justine Kish looked, for somebody who is listed as a Muay Thai champion, I'm like, wow, her striking looks robotic. Putting UFC newcomers on the main card because of their attractiveness, you're really stooping to Bellator's level. And then Munoz versus
hold on. The UFC always does that.
Yeah,
so
the UFC
it's just that they're not as blatant as Bellator.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. And then Pena versus Munoz. I actually thought Pena lost this one, to be honest.
Me too. Okay, so
I thought Munoz did a great job with the wrestling. I thought the calf kicks appeared to hurt Pena early on, and Pena struggled to get his timing. Munoz just wouldn't give him the range, and when he did, the shot was there, and he was putting him on his back. And Pena had his moments. He was outlanding Munoz with the jab, but in the early rounds, it seemed like Munoz was, able to kind of absorb the jab of Pena on the face and then land his own, and it seemed to have more of an effect.
I like Luis Pena, man. I like Violent Bob Ross, but I'm just wondering, is the clock ticking? Because, man, we keep waiting for that, career-defining performance, and it doesn't seem to be coming. For me, I think too tentative. He seemed like he was thinking a lot from the outside, and it was just taking him too long, and Munoz was closing.
Was it not because Munoz was just stymieing him? He had a good game plan and just threw him off rhythm. Violent Bob Ross is good when you're just kind of playing into the brawl game, and he's just bah bah bah. When
he's able to set the tone of the fight. Yeah. When I think he's going to struggle against better wrestlers. Right? Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with Violent Bob Ross is look, if Violent Bob Ross does everything he's doing right now, if he trains hard, if he comes in and shows up once every 3 months and does everything, then he's Yoshihiro Akiyama, but will win every once in a while. Is that so bad? Why do we have to make a guy in our heads be a top tier guy if, he might want it for himself, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't go.
He has all the skills, though. I mean, maybe his wrestling could be a little bit better, but in terms of his stand-up, he has the stand-up skills, he has the length, and his jiu-jitsu is not too bad either. So
yeah, I think judging by his length, maybe he can focus on something like Corey Sandhagen does, where he puts the time into developing a solid Kimura trap to really threaten opponents when they try to enter grappling exchanges with him. Things that are solid threats that can be grappling threats that can be established on the feet.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe something like that would be good to focus on, so that you don't have to necessarily panic when someone takes a shot on you, right?
Yeah.
And I guess we'll deal with these ones very quickly. Oh, I just wanted to bring up one thing before I get into the song that David's looking forward to. One thing about the Whittaker Gastelum fight that I forgot to mention, which was hilarious. Do you know what the Peterson roll is? Mike knows what the Peterson roll is.
Yeah.
No.
So the Peterson roll is a technique, and I'm sure if you've seen Gastelum's fights, you've seen it before. When someone takes your back, basically, you wrap your arm around their near side leg, and you basically kind of just do a front roll, and they end up rolling over you, and you land kind of on top of them, but with your back on their stomach, right? And if you're lucky, because you've got that grip on the leg, you can pass their legs and not wind up being, and you roll onto the top. Now Gastelum's has hit this in almost every single one of his fights. It's a technique that's a counter to having your back taken standing.
Are you talking when okay, never mind. I'll let you talk.
He even hit it against Israel Adesanya. Adesanya had him hurt and made the mistake of grabbing his back, and he threw Adesanya from that position, which was hilarious.
Uh-oh.
Because no
one
expected.
Hear you, big dog.
You can't hear me now?
No, I can hear you now.
Yeah, because no one expected Adesanya, to engage in grappling like that. Now, in this fight, Whittaker, which I thought was hilarious, seemed very aware of that. When he had a body lock, or Gastelum was able to work his way up along the fence and he had the back body lock, Whittaker would just let go of it like Gastelum had AIDS on him. He's just oh, no, thank you, sir. I know it's coming from that position. He just release,
Yeah. I like how funky Gastelum is with that Peterson roll, and to an extent, he kind of does a variation of a Granby roll, where instead of just rolling forward, he'll hook your leg with his leg and just roll forward, and then he's kind of grabbing your leg for a single. But yeah, he's funky.
Anyway, so moving on, we've got a thick boy fight. Go and tell your mom they'll be grappling tonight. What's that?
Matt, before we get into the fight breakdown, how much weight do you think Romanov had to cut? to make that fight yesterday or on Saturday or whatever.
I probably think he had to abstain from Twinkies for a solid week.
Is he getting bigger? Like
he's getting bigger. His gut looked enormous. Like his gut was the thing of legends.
Espino is no like small man. Like he's not exactly like an Adonis, chiseled Adonis or anything. But man, this dude looked huge. And you know what was funny? I also feel like he didn't have the grappling advantage that I expected. I know that Espino does have a BJJ black belt and is a pretty decent grappler as well. But like I expected Romanov to kind of like dominate with the grappling exchanges, and honestly,
they had their moments. They both had their moments. I mean, Espino hit that crossbody of Sotogari with his back to the fence.
Oh yeah, God, that was beautiful.
I swear to God, I felt the vibrations from that sitting at home by my TV. It was like,
I'm surprised Romanov's like spine didn't come out of his mouth like with that one. That was
Romanov with some beautiful throws of his own, right? Yeah. Some good single legs, man.
It was a good match. But what do you guys think about
Can't strike for shit. Yeah. What do I think about the decision? I think it's a weird precedent to set because it almost, if you're ahead going into the third, it almost is advantageous for you to land a grazing nut shot. Sorry, to land a hard nut shot. It was accidental, and then it goes to the judge's scorecard. You know what I mean? It's a weird precedent to set.
I don't know. I felt like it was even until that moment, so I didn't really understand the decision. If they had called like a no contest, I would have been fine with that because like it seemed like a pretty bad nut shot, but at the same time, how many fights do we really see that are ended on like low blows?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even realize that was a rule. Like I didn't realize that like in the third round, if there's a nut shot, the guy can't continue because there's 2 rounds in. You can make a decision.
It seems kind of ad hoc. It seems like they're kind of making some of this shit up on the fly. It seems like Juan Espino has landed a nut shot, but it's with the lead leg, so we're going to go to the magic 8 ball now for a decision.
Like pretty much.
I didn't realize.
I've never seen this happen. I've never seen someone go to a technical decision before.
Yeah.
And I've been watching the sport for quite a while.
Yeah, I've watched this for damn near 15 years. So, Jesus.
Yeah. I don't know. It was kind of weird to me, and I mean, there's really not much else to say on that. Good, decent fight. Romanov should have. Do you
think more fighters should go to this though? Do you think this should be a rule? Because I would hate to see a no contest or a DQ. So why not?
I think a no contest would have made more sense to me. It doesn't make sense to. I get judging. If it was a 5-round fight and this was like in the 4th or 5th round, then maybe. But even then, like just make them do it again. Make them do it again.
Fair enough.
So that was the UFC card on the weekend. Now Bellator put together a pretty spicy card, if we're honest.
I liked the card a lot. The second fight of the card was.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Buried on the undercard, unfortunately, was Mads Burnell, who was questionably cut from the UFC after putting a beating on Arnold Allen for pretty near a whole fight.
2.5 rounds?
Yeah, 2.5 rounds. He looked great. Saul Rogers looked good too. Wow. Fun grappling. There was a Japanese necktie attempt, which is Mads Burnell's thing. Saul Rogers looked, like he was keeping Mads Burnell off him in the early rounds, even scored a takedown. He was using fake level changes into uppercut left hooks, which I liked quite a bit. Mads Burnell confidence in pulling guard and reversing him from the top. There was a beautiful sweep in that first round or second round where Mads Burnell found himself in half guard and then just grabbed the far leg and came out to the side and into that dogfight position and attacked that single leg as a sweep to bring Saul Rogers onto his back. Wow, this guy is a great grappler, man.
Yeah, no, it seems like Denmark's really gotten their that Mads Burnell's from Denmark, right? I'm correct now? Yeah, he's from Denmark. It seems like they're getting really their what's together with some good grapplers coming out of that region. And you're starting to see it. There's it's not just that they're good grapplers, but there's a level of technical polish with some of those guys, especially with Mark Madsen, and who's really known as a more technical wrestler, and Mads Burnell, who looked really good with his BJJ. So, big things. Big things.
I wanted to be sure. that we talk about the Raymond Daniels fight because,
Yes.
my God, can we just stop putting these guys in there with him? Like, come on, man. Give this guy
this guy
tackle.
was a former Glory kickboxer apparently, and 7-0 in kickboxing. Just looked so out of his league. It looked like target practice. It looked like Raymond Daniels.
He threw like 4 like spinning back kicks in like the first round. It was like ridiculous. Like, man, like, and I get it. At a certain point though, like it's like not even entertaining to watch because it's just a guy spinning around the ring and this dude just getting clobbered pretty much. Like
This fight was actually rebooked because the first one ended in no contest after the guy got hit twice with back kicks to the nuts. Yeah, this was just a beating. Raymond Daniels' takedowns looked good.
It's weird. I was gonna say I'm surprised that you guys were so upset with it because Raymond Daniels looked good for his age. Like I was shocked.
But like I mean, once again, it's one thing. No disrespect to that guy, but like I don't know. I just feel like if you put him against some of the guys in the UFC, like the fight wouldn't go this way.
Of course, he would get killed. But like he's also because you know what this is. This is an attraction because look, Raymond Daniels has maybe 2 years left that you could squeeze that Bellator could. Hate to say it like this, but squeeze out of him. Mm-hmm. And to his credit, Raymond Daniels takes great care of his body. You can tell, like he's in shape. He does everything he's supposed to. But
I'd love to see him fight MVP Bellator
again.
Yeah. No, I see that too.
Probably what they're leading up to. I mean, it would be a fun fight. Paul Daly versus Saba Homasi.
Good fights.
What a banger!
Exactly how I
thought.
What a
banger! Paul Daly looking like he's losing the fight in the first round. That other dude came to bang. But man,
that's what Homasi does. Homasi doesn't care.
But shouts out to Daly, man. He took it. He looked out of it in that first round, but he took it, came back, and landed some shots of his own. And before you know it, that left hook.
The punch that ended the fight was beautiful because what he did was Homasi threw I believe, right kick, and Daly did that old parry where you pass the kick to the side, to the opposite side of your body, right? Mm-hmm. And instead of striking with the opposite hand, which is usually what you do, he passed it all the way around and then came in with a left hook. And
turned him around. Yeah,
that was beautiful.
That was nice, man.
Well, I think it's because it's to service that left hook. He really wanted that left hook to land, and
that's the moneymaker. Yeah, that's the moneymaker. And
that's what got you the 40-something wins, right?
And then we've got 43-17. Holy crap! And then we've got Corey Anderson versus Yagshimuradov. Yagshimuradov looked good in the early going. Mobile. He was fending off the takedowns well, but the story for me was just too much weight for too long, and Corey Anderson, clearly had a significant jiu-jitsu advantage. 2 separate times ended up in full mount and just, pounded Yagshimuradov off. I like the stoppage. And
I like the stoppage too.
Yeah, I thought the stoppage was fine.
Yeah, I was hyping my boy Yagsy a little bit. Yagshimuradov, for a couple of weeks So, I'm not gonna lie, this one hurt a little bit, but I think there was some good things Corey Anderson did. I really liked how he feinted. Like Yagshimuradov likes to keep his hands low. So to keep that jab consistent for Corey Anderson was a good stylistic decision that you don't usually see from Corey Anderson much.
Sure. I mean, yeah, sorry, go on.
Go for it. I was going to move on. Say your piece.
Move on.
And finally, the last fight we'll be talking about before Mike has his little, he's got his little story time. Is
Davis versus Nemkov?
Yeah, I think
didn't like
Davis.
This fight.
Yeah, Davis did a good job of keeping himself safe, but wasn't able to build much offense up until the late rounds. He used that long guard well to kind of attempt to shield himself from the overhand. And I mean, Nemkov looked good, battering him with low leg kicks, and the double jab overhand was sneaking in, but kind of landing to the top of the head. Closed the door well in the left hook when Phil Davis started, my mistake, finding that left hook in the fourth round, I believe, but it was a little bit too late. It seemed like, he was keeping himself safe, but was tentative to come back with his own offense afterwards. And, when he started sitting down in the left hook in the fourth round, we saw a little bit of success, but he just looked like
Phil Davis needs to learn. Well, not learn.
He was fighting not to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah, like he's got to get grimy a little bit, and this has been the main criticism with his career, up to this point is Phil Davis just doesn't get grimy. Like he's got to get hit. Like you got to be okay with getting hit every once in a while.
And for a man that's never been finished.
Yeah, but I think the reason why he's never been finished is because he has such a kind of, I wouldn't say scared style, but patient, safe.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a few more, like the attempts at wrestling at Phil Davis obviously didn't work so well in that, they were few and far between, and you need to be battering your opponent and wearing them down so that they're not fresh, and you need to be chain wrestling, and he came pretty close on an anaconda attempt from the front headlock, did he not?
I didn't remember it being super close. Like it was prolonged, yeah, but.
Yeah, I just felt like in general he was too tentative. Nemkov looked like the more aggressive fighter, looked like the more dangerous fighter. I found it surprising that these guys have fought before and Davis had won, actually.
No, he lost.
Oh, did he lose?
Yeah.
Well, Davis lost?
Yeah.
Sure?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm looking at his record right now.
Oh, okay.
That was the one with the famous suplex.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but either way, I just felt like he was really tentative. And for all the hype, I felt like, the card, some of the fights earlier in the card were a little bit better, in my opinion. But Nemkov did what he had to do, won the fight. We move on. So,
moving on in the Bellator tournament, now I think this sets up Ryan Bader versus Corey Anderson and Yoel Romero and Anthony Johnson fighting May 7th, I believe. That'll be fireworks, and they will, the winner of that will face Nemkov, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be Nemkov. Which, wow, geez. Nemkov, no tough task, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
I also wanted to make sure before the Julia Budd fight, just really quickly. Interesting.
Talk about boring fights.
I thought she lost that one, in my opinion. But, shout out Canadians and Lance Gibson Jr. Who's her.
Yeah, she walked away with one a little bit, eh?
She got away with that one a little bit. I'm going to be honest.
And one of the commentators said it perfectly. I think it was Big John McCarthy. He's like, yeah, it was just her inability to counterpunch. And that's why it's important to learn how to counterpunch. I mean, her offense she was unable to get going much offense, and just conceded space, defended well, didn't get hurt, but wasn't really able to come back with offense of her own after her opponent was done throwing.
And her opponent looked okay, actually. Like the Diana,
it was a tough woman. Woman, like really good fighter. But I think what it is with
Julia Budd to be more dominant, especially former Bellator women's champion. You'd expect her, to be a little bit more dominant, especially Muay Thai champion and all of this. But she couldn't get going on the feet, and it didn't look like they were trying to grapple for too long either. So
it just seemed like she couldn't get in rhythm, though. I think that was the problem. But anyway.
Smoking that Julia Budd. Anyways, Mike, didn't you have a story for us about how you weren't allowed to watch Doug or something?
No. This is the story of how I didn't get to watch Harry Potter as a kid at all.
Story all about how Mike's life got turned upside down.
And I'd like to say that may just take right here. Okay. So when the first Harry Potter came out, the Philosopher's Stone, I think it's called, whatever. Who cares, right? Harry Potter came out.
That's cool.
I remember I was in grade 3, and I was a young lad, little fresh between the ears, going through school. So a couple kids asked, hey, my dad's gonna drive us to Harry Potter. Do you want to come? I was like, sure. Let me just ask my parents, right? So I go to my mom, I go, Mother, may I please watch Harry Potter, please? And she goes, no, you must not watch Harry Potter. It is witchcraft, right? And so, I was like, wait, what do you mean witchcraft? It's a show about it's a movie about magic. It's gonna be wizards, It's because you think it's a kid's show. Everyone, it's about kids. The book was out everywhere. It was on Scholastics and whatever. And she goes, no, it's witchcraft. We don't We don't endorse that here. Whatever. She said some big $1 million word.
We don't do that here.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Michael, how is Stefano's Ghanaian accent better than yours?
Oh,
Flames, Michael. Flames.
I'm not an accent guy. It's not me.
Your own mother.
Right?
Your own mother, Michael.
You must not watch that here. You must not watch that here. Do not do that.
No, in Michael's defense, he probably can do phrases better than others. That's why.
We don't do that here.
We don't do that here.
Oh, we don't even really to this day celebrate Halloween too.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? What I was gonna say is,
which isn't real though.
Judging by how transphobic J.K. Rowling is, it looks like your mom was actually trying to do you a favor, Michael. So,
the real witchcraft is transphobia. Let's be honest.
Yes, sir. Right?
Which is the real.
What I meant to say was, my mom was like, "We don't support transphobia here, please, no, get that out of my face. That J.K. Rowling book, no, right?
J.K. Rowling. I heard she wrote a book under a pseudonym and was very homophobic.
Right. Also the hints of racism. Cho Chang, are you serious? You named the character Cho Chang?
Yeah. Really? Parvati and Lavender.
Oh my God.
Come on now.
Oh.
This has been the Literary Critique Podcast, where we critique literature from a intersectional feminist perspective. Well, with that being said,
why are your parents all you watch The Simpsons?
Because they were strict as hell. They were like they wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons. They wouldn't let me watch Doug. I wasn't allowed.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, Doug contains mature adult themes. I'm like,
wait, like the one about the teacher?
Do 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 do. That Doug?
Wait, no, I don't think I know who you're talking
about.
Oh,
that's the cartoon with the guy who had like 5 hairs sprouting up, right?
The Nickelodeon one.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, my parents were strict as hell, man. They wouldn't let me watch.
They let you watch did they at least let you watch like Adventure Time or something?
They wouldn't let us. Adventure Time was way after my time.
Honestly, no. Honestly, man, like it's just like that. Like we're gonna make mistakes if anybody on this podcast so chooses to have children. You're gonna make mistakes too. So I tend to give parents leeway. But yeah, I mean, we had to sneak around. Like we had
to watch WWE Raw.
I'm about to tell the story. So we would literally stand by the front door and listen for the car to pull up the driveway before we could turn. Friday Night SmackDown, I think it was. Like we weren't even allowed to watch WWE. We had to wait for the car to pull up the driveway.
To be fair though, looking back on some of the themes in WWE.
Exactly. That's why you say
wilding, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why you say you look back and you say like I get it, but still like I grew up either way. Like I think the same thing happened with BET.
I'll never forget the episode.
We had to go around some
crazy echo. We have crazy echo.
We have a crazy echo.
Yeah, man. Like we even had to do the same thing about BET too. It was hilarious. It was great. But these are the things that make your childhood. These are things that make your childhood. So.
I remember I wasn't allowed to listen to any. I still hear the echo.
Okay, hold on.
I think it's coming from you, Mike.
Jeremy, is it you?
Hello? I think we're good. Okay, it's Jeremy. Yeah, I remember I wasn't allowed to listen to rap albums that had parental advisories on them. And I managed to, like, my brother had some Eminem CDs, and I remember, like, stealing them and then listening to them under the bed so that nobody would know what I was doing. And the first rap album I bought was The World Is Yours by Mace. And for some reason, like, even though there were vulgar songs on it, there wasn't a parental advisory on it. I'm like, I want to play it in the car. And my dad's like, he was the more lenient one. He's like, you know what? You better not, because if your mom hears any swearing on that, you're not going to be allowed to have it. So just wait till you get home, put it in your CD player,
It's crazy how people are like, oh, yeah, it's not the fault of the artist. You should be, you as a parent are in charge of, how your kid lives their life, or you're in charge of what they consume and all that kind of stuff. But then as kids, when your parents actually try to control what you consume, you're furious and finding a way to get that other stuff
around it. And you're going to get access to it. I think like anything else, hard lines in the sand are kind of difficult to enforce with these kinds of things. But educated conversations about the risks of and rewards of certain things are the best, right?
Stefano, have you ever tried to have an educated conversation with a child?
Dude, I teach children sometimes for a living.
Okay. Wait, no, not in like a martial arts setting. I mean, like just like a non-coaching setting.
I haven't parented kids before, but it's one thing when they're your kids, and it's one thing when you're trying to parent someone else's kids, you know? Because I don't know what they're doing.
They tend to listen to you better. They tend to listen to people outside them better, because like, especially if like you're like in the 20 range, like the 20 to 25, you know, because they tend to relate to you. Yeah.
Or like you're a coach and they're looking up to you. Then it's a little easier. They're wanting to listen. But if you're like a parent and they have other people telling them other stuff, like it's so difficult to like.
Yeah, and it's funny for me. As far as teaching, my favorite age range is like kind of like 9 to 14, because you know they'll listen to you and they can actually understand that they should be scared of you a little bit. Like I don't yell at kids, so I have a terrible time teaching the little kids usually, because they're just running around and I'm like, stop it. Oh, okay, all right, we're not gonna stop it. You know,
do the hand. Do you do the hand? And everyone else does the hand. Yeah.
What the Caesar wave?
Yeah. And then everyone else will do the hand with you, and then you bring it down, and then I don't know.
Good tips.
I do it too, man. I coach soccer. I get it. Like kids can be a nightmare to coach, but you need different styles for different age groups, I feel.
100%. It usually helps when you can spar with them. You think you're tough because you're 5 years old? I'm gonna lay this leg kick into you. No, I'm kidding.
For me, when I played soccer with like those little youth, like man, when I'm like busting moves and breaking ankles, like okay, you're gonna respect me next time I'm talking. Like you know.
I think it varies based on the sport, because martial arts is where all the the ADHD kids such as myself get put, because they they can't focus and they don't want to pay attention. Their parents are like, well, maybe they can teach them something, you know what I mean? And I'm over here like, yeah, I mean I can try, but like
yeah, it's like I can try. This is gonna really help him out when he's in jail, I guess. But
if they ultimately, you can't teach someone if they don't want to learn, right?
Yeah.
And I've had kids just bang their head against the wall for like a year straight and learn absolutely nothing. And it's like, well, I can't force knowledge in their head, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, but at the same time, I was that kid, you know, like who'd be dragged across to like some program, and I'm not really trying to be in the program, so I'm just like doing whatever in my own head and disrespecting the teacher. So I get it. A lot of times you just have to like find a way to get them motivated.
But when David's parents put him in critical feminist literature theory classes,
his eyes lit up. His eyes
lit up. He was a gangster in that class.
Match made in heaven.
Now, any other? Jeremy, the echo. Mute yourself. Anyways.
Shame on you, Jeremy. Why must you speak? No, I'm kidding.
Anyways, guys, any other stories, tidbits, anything you want to say, or are we about to wrap this emotionally exhausting episode up?
Yeah.
We all good?
Wrap up.
Well, guys, I'm one of your hosts, Silly White. These three are Sirius Black, and like that Harry Potter reference. Wow. We are the Leg Kick Podcast. Subscribe if you haven't already. Show us to your friends. We're here to educate you. We can be found on all platforms where podcasts can be found, including YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, podcast app. If you pick up an old cassette, one of your dad's old cassettes in the basement that probably contains some kind of porn, will probably be on there too. You'll probably find a tape of your mom gagballed, beating your dad wearing a gimp suit. Will be somewhere on that as well. We are the Leg Kick Podcast. Mike, to play us out, what does that mean?
What does that mean? I don't know. Okay, so
we don't do that here.
We don't do that here. In a world where Stefano thinks he's funny, just remember you have 3 things. You have life, you have family, and this podcast. Kenyan jollof rice is better than Nigerian jollof rice. Had to put that one in there. Later.